Hey everybody, Tony D with another screenwriting tip. Today we're going to talk about writing a screenplay with the topic of racism. Now this obviously is a touchy subject, so you got to tread carefully. Doesn't matter who you are because most people don't see the screenwriter; they see the actors. Um, so these days it's the hottest of topics. But understand that everything's so politicized, even movies right now. And, as strictly a marketing position in terms of movies, Hollywood is all about the international markets for their bigger movies. So, in order to get a bigger movie, you need to be in the Chinese market and other markets, but the Chinese market is a big one. Understand the Chinese country, the government there, they're pretty racist. Um, People have talked about John Boyega on the Star Wars poster and how he wasn't cropped out, but his image in the Star Wars poster was big in the American version, or at least equal to the other actors. In the Chinese version, he sort of shrunk down and pushed into the background. You can go online, you could see videos of, people in China treating expats pretty shamefully. So you have to be aware of that. In the United States, obviously you have to be aware of the various racial issues here. But beyond that, there's a couple of tacks you could take. Now, a lot of screenwriters, obviously, they do historical, movies involving racism, right? So you got things like Mississippi Burning, and I think I looked at that not so historical one. What was it called? I forget now. It was the one with like Cthulhu stuff. Oh, what the hell was it called? Cthulhu stuff, and it was in the Deep South, and so there was racism, but there were also like monsters. What the hell was it called? Was it called Cthulhu Country? No, I can't think of the name of the show. But that's a new show coming out on HBO. Apparently, it was based on a book. So that's more of a fictionalized version of a historical era, right? So it's the Deep South during the Jim Crow era, or like right after, and but it's a horror show. But the main characters are black, so they're dealing with racism and the monsters at the same time. Great concept, by the way. I love it. Really puts your protagonist in an awkward position that they gotta fight their way out of. Now, when you're doing something more straightforward, what you're trying to do is send a message. So I did my premise for my movie was about cops, and it wasn't typical my portrayal. The idea behind the story was that one of the cops was so anxious to not be racist, he ends up messing up a case because he makes assumptions the other way. He sees racism where there is none, and assumes things in the case that end up screwing everything up. So, that's a different take on it, right? It's sort of playing on the perceptions of the audience, which, I wrote this screenplay back in the early 90s. So, this is a topic that will probably be around for a long time. Now, these days, super tough to get. On the one hand, it might be easier, on the other hand, it might be tough. It depends on your take. Obviously, you're going to have an anti-racism take, but it's also true that you need something in the script to kind of, to make a statement about where we're going as a society and how racism is impacting that. So, it's going to be a tough subject. And, unless it's super, super woke these days. And believe me, I've been doing stuff on Antifa and the Chaz and all these extreme leftists, and on Twitter going after people. It's, I think, going to become a topic that Hollywood in general probably will stay away from unless they're inoculated. And the way they get inoculated is by making sure the screenwriter's black, the director's black, the cast is black, and it's like super, super woke. So it's going to be tough to do a screenplay that would be more nuanced. And I think a lot of times what Hollywood would push people to do would be something that's so blatantly, obviously anti-racist, which, it should be anti-racist, but if there's no nuance in the script, if there's no tension there, and it's just all message and lecturing, it's not going to make a good movie. So, if you make the people who are racist so incredibly unrealistic and two-dimensional, then, the movie just becomes, it's almost like a cartoon. It's, you want to have characters that are in depth, even if they're bad, right? I mean, even if the character's a total racist, you want him to have some nuance. Maybe he's got a family, and that gives him some amount of, sympathy, that if he dies, his family will be without a provider or something, something like that. So, these days, my advice, man, I don't know if I touch a script about racism with a 10-foot pole, because it's just too dicey. Just too dicey. I mean, it's hard to even imagine a production company that would, oh yeah, let's delve into that right now. That's hot. It's kind of all, the best you could hope for is if you do a screenplay about police brutality and how awful it is. But again, it may lapse into the realm. It may push it so hard that the characters are so evil and so one-dimensional that the movie, it undermines the movie. If you do a movie about police brutality, again, the characters have to be realistic. So there's a tough struggle going on there. And but on the other hand, this is a topic that's in the news. It's a hot topic. Racism is complex. It makes for good drama. It makes for a lot of times very interesting protagonists. And, we've seen that over the years. It's, classic stuff like To Kill a Mockingbird, and, on and on and on. So, don't shy away from it, but at the same time, be very aware that you're juggling a hand grenade here. And you don't want to put yourself in the position where, the woke idiots in Hollywood go, oh, why did you say this in your screenplay? Are you some kind of racist? The one advantage of being a screenwriter is we're usually so far in the background of a movie, we'd be the last guys they'd come after, right? So unless the director and producer decide to throw us under the bus and blame us for some perceived error in a screenplay about racism, it's unlikely they would be mad at us. It would be more likely they would be mad at the leads, the director, the producer. And I'm not saying that to aha, well, you'll be fine. But, I'm saying that because that's just reality. And that the Twitter mobs that tend to roam free on Twitter and cancel people's careers, most of us don't really have to worry about that unless you've got a big career. If you got a big career, hopefully you have big money saved. So even if you do get canceled, well, you'll probably be fine. But, that's no reason to shy away from the subject. It's an important subject. It's when you deal with stuff like that. I mean, we dealt with it in Wokistan, and it made the stakes higher for the book, for the piece as a whole, as an art piece. And, we don't deal, well, I guess we deal with it in Hollywood too, more so how it impacts the media. God, we can't keep up. We can't keep up with all the wokeness in these books. We can't write them fast enough. But in a screenplay, that's a problem too, right? If you were working on a screenplay about racism, 2 months ago, while we were in lockdown, I bet you have to go, oh crap, now I got to really do some refiguring here, because you can't ignore this event, because it directly impacts what you're talking about. And if it takes place in the modern day, you definitely would have to probably put something in about George Floyd, because it's becoming such a massive event in the history books, as it were. Who knows though? Maybe 5 years from now, people won't remember, and it'll be like, whoa, man, 2020 was crazy and a bunch of stuff happened. But who knows? So, again, don't shy away from it, but do your research too. And you got to kind of be sensitive in your screenplay. I'm not suggesting you shy away from the harsh language and events that you might have to portray, but just be aware of the kind of movie you're making. So if you're making a drama and you want to really expose the brutality of the police, and you have something to say, then yes, it should be a brutal movie, hard to look at kind of thing. But if you're doing something that takes place in a time of racial inequality, or, where racism is a factor, but it's not the whole movie, you may have to pull back a little and not let it overwhelm the entire story. Anyhow, that's my screenwriting tip today. Good luck, screenwriters. We'll see you next time.